and a good afternoon, sir. Great to have you on again.
Thanks for having me. Good to talk to you.
Yeah, it's great, especially under these circumstances with the series tied at 1-1, and then the report from Shams about 45 minutes ago that Luka might play. I mean, how exciting is that? Are you surprised, and what are you hearing about Luka's availability?
I'm not hearing anything. Shams basically gets his info from the agents, and the agents are talking to the trainers and teams. So that's he's even a little more plugged in than I am.
Okay.
Because generally speaking, the trainers don't even speak to us, even media or otherwise, even if affiliated with the team. They try to keep it as low a profile as possible.
Okay.
But on one hand, I mean, I guess I kind of anticipated that Thursday could be the day, given that it seemed as if in the immediate aftermath of the injury that he seemed to be moving okay, and that indicated the least severe of strains, which generally speaking, according to the folks who follow these things, follows in about a 10 to 12 day period. And last night Luka was on the floor at his usual time warming up, which was kind of interesting because normally if he's not playing and he's going to get shots up, he usually does that a lot earlier. So it was kind of interesting to see that play out, go through his regular routine. The Mavericks head of athletic performance, Casey Smith, and Jeremy Holstoppel, the lead strength coach, were very much eyeing every move that he made. And he seemed to move okay again. It seemed like his normal warm-up. He certainly didn't seem to be laboring, but it didn't seem like, he was really like going super hard or anything like that. So there were a couple of days here to try to get it right, and we'll see what happens. But I mean, if he does play, that's absolutely thrilling because it's clear that he's got a few running buddies who are capable of taking some of the load off of him.
Chuck, and you mentioned the running buddies, and I was listening to you on the way home in your the pregame show, and you were talking about the Mavs. Hey, key, maybe some better ball movement, things like that, but with Brunson and stuff, the difference from what you saw in game 1 to game 2 that maybe that your trained eye could have picked up on, and you can kind of give us an idea maybe what that was for him.
Well, I think you got a few more paint touches from the guards, from both Brunson and Dinwiddie, and but not necessarily looking to always shoot the ball themselves. Which they took 39 shots between them in game 1, and that didn't work out too well. I mean, I guess ultimately they wound up shooting a few more in game 2, but it just seemed like touch the paint, kick the ball, swing it again, and that pretty much got you the open shot. I think they were, more determined to try to do that than they were in game 1, and I think ultimately the fact that they did do that got Utah scrambling a little bit and allowed them ultimately, to get more of the some more room in the mid range to be able to finish that way. And no, listen, ultimately that was the difference in the game. I mean, the Mavericks didn't make shots in game 1, and they did make them in game 2. I don't think Jalen's shot selection was a whole lot different. I guess he took a few more threes, and ultimately he made them at a clip that he's never made them before. So that was great to see. But I think just overall they kind of got back to doing what they do, which has made them so successful on offense late in the season. And I mean, it's interesting here because if they can get the series back here, with it's certainly at least tied and fortunate enough to win both games up there. I mean, the Mavericks in 4 of their last 5 games have made 23s or more at the American Airlines Center. They love playing at home, and it just seems to work for them really well. I'm curious to see what it's going to be like up there in a very hostile atmosphere where they've not had a lot of success over the last 6 years.
Chuck, it's amazing. How does a team – I was listening to you call the game last night. I don't think you said but 3 turnovers for the Mavs. Have you ever had one of those where you kind of go through and you're not – I know you're always kind of keeping in mind of how the game is flowing through your head, and as you're watching it, you're telling us all that. But I can't remember listening to you and talk about a team only turning the ball over 3 times.
Well, they tied the franchise record overall. It's the fewest they've ever had in a playoff game. They're 11-2 in games in which they have turned it over 7 or fewer times. One of the losses was in game 1. So they've had only 10 total turnovers in 2 games against a Utah team, which doesn't force very many turnovers, by the way. Okay. They only average forcing 12 per game, and now they've only forced 10 combined in the first 2 games. So what it tells me ultimately is that if you do what you're supposed to do against them, you'll be able to get the shots you want. You'll be what you've got to be able to do is just take advantage of those possessions. In game 1, they didn't do a very good job. They came close, but in game 2, clearly they were able to do a much better job of doing that.
And Chuck, it's one of those things that you knew and Brad knew going into the game that they were likely going to get killed on the boards. Is that something that we're overrating then right now with the Mavs being able to get a win with getting beat on the boards the way they did?
Well, again, the margin comes primarily because of defensive rebounding. Maybe a little less so last night, just because the Mavericks made so many threes. But generally speaking, because the Mavericks are not a great offensive rebounding team, they're right at the bottom of the league in that area. Usually they're just trying to get back. They don't grab very many. So I don't think they should be looking at the idea of getting out rebounded by 19 per game as a good thing, because clearly it's not. But they did get hurt again in offensive rebounds and second chance points. That in many ways that is not sustainable. The Mavericks obviously got away with it last night a little bit because they made 22 threes. I don't think they're going to be making 22 threes in either game up in Salt Lake City. They could make 14 or 15 or something like that. They're not going to do 22. So that means there's probably going to be 8 other misses. How many other rebounds are the Mavericks going to be able to get, on the offensive end? And then, defensively, just the size of Gobert, his length, his pterodactyl-like length, with the 7'9" wingspan, Mavericks just don't have anybody who can really match up in that area. And that's, again, where Luka is so important. If he's able to play, he's their best rebounder and certainly their best defensive rebounder. I mean, I don't think the margin would be 19 if Luka played. But I do think that Utah's going to have an advantage in that area. And really the key against them going forward, when they're playing defense, because they're going to force missed shots. It's not like Utah has really shot it great, and Mitchell certainly hasn't shot it great. Bogdanovich has, but Mitchell hasn't. Once the ball goes up, the possession does not end until you grab the rebound. So, again, that's obviously a very large thing to look at as the series goes on.
It's Chuck Cooperstein with you here on The Fan. Do you think Kleber is done with the slump now? Can we kind of put that to bed? Or what are your thoughts on Maxi shooting the ball so much better last night?
Well, look, he's not a 19% shooter like he was post-All-Star break. Basically, for his career, he's been a good three-point shooter. He was a 37% three-point shooter last year. I don't think he's going to go 8 for 11 every game. I don't think we should be counting on that. But there's no reason to think that his head isn't in a much better place now. And I dare say that given comparisons to the last 2 years in the playoffs, when he entered the playoffs really pretty banged up and had to play a lot of minutes, he comes into this playoff as healthy as he's ever been because he didn't play for the last 2 weeks. So he got his ankle right, and I think he got his head right. And it's a tremendous sign because, with Dwight Powell pretty much taken out of the series in the first 2 games because the lob threat just wasn't there because Brunson and Dinwiddie aren't going to throw those lobs the way Luka does.
Right.
You have to be able to get somebody from the 5 position to be able to score. And whether that's Kleber or Bertans, who had a good game against Utah, coming out of the All-Star break, somebody was going to have to do that. Somebody was going to have to score from that spot. And last night it was Kleber.
Okay, so obviously it would be so exciting if Luka can come back, and we'll be monitoring that closely over the next couple of days. But, you mentioned how tough it is to win in Utah. Do you think they can win one up there against the Jazz if Luka's out for both games 3 and 4?
I think they can. I really do. And maybe some people think this is homerish, but I think we saw last night where Utah really struggles. They have an inability to hold on to big leads. They have an inability, especially to hold on to big leads in the fourth quarter. And they had a 7-point lead with about it was 93-86 with 7 minutes to go, and they couldn't hold on to that. And the Mavericks have shown that getting down and getting down fast and falling behind by double digits does not really faze them very much. I mean, if the Mavericks can get the game to the final 6 minutes in a clutch time situation, the Mavericks know they can win that game. And last night, especially doing it without Luka, which really they had not done. The only other time they had done it all year was when they beat Sacramento, when Finney-Smith hit that three-pointer in the right corner in early March. But the fact that they did it without Luka, they know they can do it with him. But even without him, they know now they can do that, and they know that Utah's mental state is still so fragile that if the game is close, they have to believe that they can win either one of those games if it comes like that.
Chuck, as you look at the Mavs again, heading west for this one, though, if you're Jason Kidd and the staff, is there anything different you're going to throw at Utah, or is this pretty much who you are, at least for this series?
I think they're pretty happy with the game plan they have set up. I mean, Utah is a team that has been dependent on shooting a lot of three-pointers and making a lot of three-pointers. They're a very good three-point shooting team, and they average over 43 point attempts per game. Well, in game one, they were 7 of 22. Last night they were better. I mean, they were 11 of 29, but if you're going to hold them to below 33-point attempts, you're making your fair share of threes, that's a pretty good recipe for success. I think the Mavericks are more than willing to live with the outcome of the game if they're holding Utah to about 33 three-point attempts per game as opposed to the 40 they normally take.
Final question from me, Chuck. Can Brunson be that superstar sidekick that we've been talking about Luka needing?
Well, again, I don't know that that Luka needs a superstar sidekick. He does need someone who is as reliable as Jalen Brunson is. The thing about Jalen Brunson is his remarkable consistency. He's been a 50% shooter for each of the last 2 years. His three-point percentage actually went a little down this year, but he shot 37. He shot 84 from the line. And there's only one person in the NBA this year that has Jalen Brunson's shooting splits, and that's Kevin Durant.
Wow.
So Jalen Brunson is unafraid of the moment. I mean, the 2018 draft for the Mavericks put out two guys that have really they only know winning. That's all that they really ever did before they got to the Mavericks. So what's happened here in this growth process in the NBA, that has been driving them absolutely insane because they're not used to finishing their seasons before anybody else finishes their season. So is Jalen Brunson, is he Bradley Beal? Is he going to average 30 a game? No, he's not that. But he and Doncic and Dinwiddie, the thing that has just been so exceptional since the trade is the ability of those three players to play with and off of each other to the point where you always have that second ball handler on the floor. And it's made all the difference in the world. Is Jalen Brunson, is he a superstar? Is he an all-NBA player? He's probably not. But is Jalen Brunson a guy that you can absolutely win with in the heliocentric nature of the Luka Doncic world? Absolutely.